Hello, welcome again to another video. Here I am, Buddha of Blackpool, in Blackpool, my favourite town. Well, it's not my favourite town actually, but here's a tram you don't see on its way to Stargate. You don't see a tram in many other towns, apart from, well, I don't know, Manchester, Sheffield. Are there any trams in London? I don't even know actually. It's that long since I've been. Anyway, look there in the background we've got the tower and the bendy spoons. Beautiful day today actually. It's cold. It's what people might call crisp. Nice crisp day when you're pleased to get home and you know, get by the fire, snugly warm by the fire. All those words that people who can afford heat use, like snuggly and cosy and comfy and all loved up by the fire. So here we see the scene, the panacea, the vista of Blackpool today. Seeing if I can see any other vloggers on my route. We're a sort of motley crew, and I don't mean that in the sense of Pamela Anderson's boyfriend. I mean like motley crew spelt correctly. A boy plays with the seagulls in the background there. Oh, they're pigeons. Wonder where the gulls have gone. Maybe they've been gulled by a ruse, a false fish. Maybe they've been deceived, the less deceived, as Philip Larkin called it. So here I go towards that pier. There is the one down there is Central Pier, and this pier is South Pier. Of course it's called South Pier because it's at the south of Blackpool, near the pleasure beach, which is there, look in front of me. The beach of pleasure, where pleasure can be had for all ages, great and small. Little nod to James Herriot there. Let's see what happens as I transverse along my weary route. Where will my sojourn take me? This is an older part of Blackpool, of course. Piers are to be open soon, and all the enjoyalists will come out of the woodwork. Wives, husbands, daughters, maniacs, one and all, hit Blackpool as soon as the weather gets a bit lighter and a bit warmer. As soon as it goes above 2 degrees, everyone will be in that cold, boorish Irish sea. The sea of black pools, as Dylan Thomas might have called it. Not Bob Dylan Thomas, as was once said to me. Fucking Dylan Thomas, the Irish poet. Let's see, what station is this? This station's called South Pier tram station. Famous South Pier here with the funnily fan bar, with the family fun bar. I nearly did a malapropism then from the book Mrs. Malaprop. I'm not Mr. Malaprop, and I won't be told I am. Is that a malapropism or is it a spoonerism? No, I think it's a spoonerism. There you go, funnily fan bar. I think that's a spoonerism. A malapropism is where you use one word instead of another. So you might say, let's think of a good one. Christ, it's hard to think off the cuff. Malapropism. Oh yeah, here we go. So you say something a bit cheeky to someone. So you go, oh, Blackpool front, I'd like to see your front. And they go, Oh, stop it. You're incorrigible, you, aren't you? Incorrigible. But some people who don't know the word incorrigible may say, ooh, stop it. You're encourageable, you, aren't you? Which means something completely different. And you see this all the time. Incorrigible and encourageable. Perfect example of the old malapropism. And there was a book in the English literature annals about a character called Mrs. Malaprop, who used malapropisms all the time. You get it in Coronation Street a lot, where the writers, obviously, the writers are literary figures, and you know, they've obviously got a job on Coronation Street, of course, because they're well versed in the English literature canon, but also because they've probably got a relative who already works there. So it's a win-win if you know about English literature and you've got a big relative. Whereas if you know about English literature and you haven't got a big relative, you end up working here on £10 an hour, serving drinks to fucking ingrates. Such is life. C'est la vie, as the French say. Now here I am at White Tower Restaurant within the confines of Blackpool Pleasure Beach, one of the oldest amusement parks in Europe, and certainly one of the most enjoyable. Great place for fun, frolics and laughter. A friend of mine once used to say, we used to come to Blackpool Pleasure Beach, and in our haste to get here, I would drive very fast up the motorway from Manchester, town of my birth, and we'd get here and he'd say, oh my god, your driving is so erotic. And of course what he meant is erratic, but he called my driving erotic, as if I'd been touching the gear knob in a certain way, steering the handle, touching the handles. But it wasn't that. My driving's never been erotic, but sometimes it was erratic. Another example of the malapropism. So, malapropisms aside, this is the great Blackpool Pleasure Beach, where I think I've heard they're having a chunk of rail exchanged on the big one. This thing in front of us, this twisty turny red and blue thing, is called the big one. I think it used to be called Pepsi Max or something. It depends who the sponsor is, you know, like the in neuro-linguistic programming, you anchor something to something exciting and then everyone buys the products because they associate it with excitement. So you could call this, the big one, you could call Buddha of Blackpool's Big One. Imagine that. Have you ridden Buddha of Blackpool's Big One? That would put me down in the history books, wouldn't it? In the annals of fame. That's where I need to be, in the annals. Hey up, here's the fucking seagull. You alright? You alright? I'm trying to sound Bradfordy. I hope I don't insult any of the Yorkshirites in my substantial audience. Hey, look at the seagull on the roof there. Look at this one here, he's a big bugger. Hello. Hello, big bugger. Hey. What you call to seagulls? Let me try a seagullic call. Well, I might be insulting him. I might have just said your family are bastards. Now here's some little bit of information. Look at one tucking in on a McDonald's wrapper there. That's what they're like, a bit of McDonald's. Seagulls can eat anything. I'm going to tell you some facts now about seagulls, which you might not all know. Seagulls live till they're about 25 or 30 years old, which is fucking amazing, isn't it? Who would have guessed that? I thought they'd be gone in like 4 or 5 years, but Look at this one on the roof, he's a cheeky one. Look at that one. He's like the Rolls-Royce Spirit of Ecstasy. You know, the flying lady on the front of a Rolls-Royce is called the Spirit of Ecstasy. Well, he's the spirit of the sea. He's the gull of wisdom, the gull of knowledge, the gull of hope, the gull of salvation. And so what we've got now is seagulls living till they're 30. So there'll be a seagull near my house in Blackpool who thinks of me as a newcomer. If he thinks of me at all, you know what I mean, he might think, fuck, you know what I mean, who cares about me? But if he does, he'll be thinking, well, Anthony, he's not been around for long. The Buddha of Blackpool, here 1 minute, gone the next. As soon as he wins the lottery, he'll be in Spain or Stratford-on-Avon. As soon as you can say Jonathan Livingston Seagull. So, anyway, so the seagull, this is what you might not know. They can drink seawater, right? Drink seawater because they've got special filters in their gills that filters out the salt. It's like a little mini desalination plant within the cheeks of the veritable gull. And so they can live on seawater. Isn't that great? We drink seawater and we die of scurvy. So that's why those on Mutiny on the Bounty were all dying and being thrown overboard. Well, not only that, because of Fletcher Christian as well, and rocking up at Pitcairn Island. That's another story. That's another video. When the Buddha of Blackpool goes wild on Pitcairn Island. That'll be a good video, won't it? In fact, I might ask for sponsorship. See if any of my many viewers will sponsor me to go to Pitcairn Island. I bet they'd fucking sponsor me to go there and fucking stay there. I do one video every day. Hey, Pitcairn Island, home of incest. So, I hope I don't get a fucking strike for that. I got a strike on YouTube about 6 months ago. It was a Coca-Cola song that I'd been involved with. And on the front cover of the Coca-Cola song, I put a little thumbnail, and it was of a pretty girl, and about a quarter of her nipple was showing, like not what one would call, but what is called the areolae, and it was also an illustration, and it was also from Coca-Cola. So this was flagged up as, like, you know, nipple showing crime, yeah. So fucking YouTube struck me for that. God strike me down, I showed a nipple, chickadee. So yeah, they struck me down, the bastards, and I appealed against the strike. I said, look, it's an illustration by Coca-Cola's artists, tiny bit of areolae, and upheld. They upheld, and see, I nearly used a malapropism there. I nearly said withheld instead of upheld. They upheld the strike and still struck against me. That's probably for a different reason, though. That'll be because I'm shadow banned everywhere, and they don't like gobshites like me. They don't like anyone who's anti-system like me. So anyway, I got a strike for that, a bit of nipple and you're out. Whereas you can have fucking pop tarts, like, not like Kellogg's, but like Miley Cyrus and et al, who can come on stage with false tits, i.e. implied nudity, and a strap-on dildo and dance around like Aguilera, twerking and whining. And they don't get struck because, of course, the pop music is part of the satanic system to brainwash young people, so that gets allowed. Yet my little fucking illustration from the 1950s gets a strike. As the Americans would say, go figure. But that's the unfairness of life. Now look, there's some scaffold. Can you see that scaffold within the big one there? So that's where they're replacing the piece of rail. Might have been rusty or something like that, but better to be safe than plunging 200 feet to your death. That's always been my motto in Latin. Who knows what that is in Latin? Better to be safe than plunging 200 feet to your fucking death. Any Romans watching my video can put a like and subscribe. If your name is Antonius Brutus Maximus, click like and subscribe. Join the Buddha of Blackpool on his weary walks around a weary, jaded town that has much to offer to the day tripper, but not much to offer to the economic fun seeker. Nice place though. Nice to look at the sea. The best part of Blackpool is that part which hasn't been adulterated by man. So the things that have been created by human beings tend to be garish and hideous, whereas the things of nature like the sky and the sea are just as great as ever. They're beautiful. I always say that, I mean, you all know probably that we're living in an inverse satanic system where the system of control presents us with a faux democracy that we believe is freedom, but it's actually a ruse. So we know that, and I always say that it's great that the controllers who mess everything up can't control the tides and the sun. They tried to block the sun out, of course, with chemtrails, but can't be done very effectively. So thank God they can't interfere too much with nature, because you can guarantee if it was all decided by the WEF and that lot, it'd be completely fucked up. Anything decided by a committee seems to go wrong. Behold, some smoke in the distance. I've come away and missed something big. Wonder what that is. Can you see the smoke coming out of the top of the sandcastle? It's black smoke. Maybe they've elected a new pontiff. The pontiff of Blackpool. Pontificator. Procurator. So here we are. I'm at the zenith of the big one here. That's where you get the mighty fucking drop, and you scream like a little girl, and you fucking wet your pants, and you're like, oh, or higher, you know, ah! Like that, if you can find your falsetto. If I was at the top of that, I wouldn't find my falsetto very well, although I have walked along this ladder up there like that to the top, like there, up and down like that. Done that. Should have done a video, but I didn't have enough hands because I am not the octopus. So there we are. I think that's enough from me now. Probably talked you all to sleep with my dulcet tones. I've gone heavily into South Shore now, which is near the home of the Buddha of Blackpool, where I sit on my little mat and observe my belly button. So I'll see you all again another day, maybe in another town. I'm doing a bit of travelling this week, so you never know. I'll leave you with this view of the whale tail, which isn't what many under 35-year-olds males think when they hear the words whale tail brandished around. But here it is. This is not the top of a giant thong, but rather it is the I think it's some sculpture actually. Let's have a look what it is before I go. I know you's all interested. What's this? Behold. There should be a plaque somewhere. Where's the plaque? It says what it is. There's a nice semicircular crescent seat on it. I wonder what this is called. Well, God knows. It should be called whale tail though, shouldn't it? Can't see any description of it. There's another malapropism. Thong and throng. You know, like the throng of people is a group of people, yeah? A giant throng of people. T-H-R-O-N-G. And obviously a thong is a garment of female attire. Well, I say female, that could get me a strike these days. Could be any male, couldn't it? Male, female, dog, carrot, anything you want to identify as Andrew Lloyd Webber says in the opening of Joseph, you are what you feel. Well, not really, but I get it, it's good agenda writing. So yeah, a mighty throng of people, not to be confused with a mighty thong and whale tail. Alright, I'll see you all soon. Enough rambling. I'll leave you both at the Boulevard Hotel and the Big Blue Hotel near King's Boutique Hotel, and signing off, a big long one from the Buddha of Blackpool. Bye.